What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, managing editor of Fightful.com and FightfulMMA.com, here for your UFC Orlando post-show wrap-up podcast, brought to you by LivingSharp.com. If you're having trouble finding a gift idea, or you just want to get something creative, something different, something funny, something sad, go check out LivingSharp.com. They are great sponsors of this show. Supporting them supports us, so head over there. At the very least, give them a look over at LivingSharp.com, because there are things that you'll see there and think that maybe you can stash away for Christmas. Lots of ideas. If I got to plug all the things that Fightful.com wanted me to plug, though, I'd be here all day. So just check it out. We got the Holy Smokes MMA podcast, Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern. We had several fighters on this show. I think like 4 or 5 from this UFC Orlando show. On last week's show, we had pros picks courtesy of James Lynch, who interviewed half of the card tonight. He did an awesome job. Lots of exclusive content over at Fightful.com and FightfulMMA.com. And we have an exclusives tab where you all can check that out. Man, lots of fun tonight. This show, from a marquee standpoint, as I had pointed out before, not the biggest show from that marquee standpoint, but much like last week, one that delivered in the cage. And that's really what you can ask for. UFC Orlando. For wrestling fans, I know that EC3 and Rockstar Spud were there. It's kind of cool. Hopefully EC3 learned some submissions. But let's run through this card. We'll start from the bottom, go all the way up. Manny Bermudez defeated Albert Morales, round 2 guillotine choke. Morales just did not see that guillotine coming, and by the time he did, there was nothing that he could do about it. Bermudez is going to need a lot of work, because there was no one overwhelming skill that he showed, and that 10-0 record of his was glitz. I thought that Jordan Breen of Sherdog did an awesome preview of this and pretty much said exactly that. You had Alex Perez over Eric Shelton. Alex Perez missed weight, but he was stuck at an airport like all day. Didn't really have a lot of the necessities in order to make that weight, so I think you could forgive that. Shelton, I thought, is the better boxer, but he was moving backwards a lot, and he still caught Perez, who would move straight after his 1-2s without any head movement. But Perez's ability to chain things together, and especially his takedowns and transitions and stuff like that, helped him gain that victory. He called out Robert Sanchez after that fight. A good, realistic call-out, and a call-out. That's what matters, a call-out. Robert Sanchez won last week, so it makes a lot of sense from that perspective. Don't blame him. Good stuff there. Guys, make sure you all submit questions if you are on the live chat. If you're watching live at Fightful.com or YouTube.com/Fightful, leave us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, anything like that. Do all that good stuff. Let me hit me with a question, and I'll do my best to answer it. And, of course, don't forget to comment. Head over to the live coverage page before all these shows and just hit us with your predictions. I love to see that. Ronnie Yahya over Russell Doan. This could be it for Doan. He's lost 5 of 6. Meanwhile, Ronnie Yahya has 1 loss in his last 8 fights. Yahya goes after the lead leg with a single. That's always his MO. He's been doing it for a decade and a half, essentially. So I thought it was a little weird that Russell Doan's corner in between the first and second round was like, oh, he's going after that lead leg with a single. Well, you think? You think? I didn't do any film study on the guy, and I know that. If you're fighting Ronnie Yahya, you better know that, or exactly what happened will happen. Man, there was a really cool spot, though, where Yahya was backpacking Doan, and Doan like jumped forward and spiked Yahya's head, and I thought Yahya maybe lost his wits for a second. Yahya couldn't hit, here's the thing. This choke at the end of the fight, I thought that was particularly impressive, because Ronnie Yahya could have rode that out and probably won like 30-25 or something like that. I thought that he was up 20-16 on the scorecards at the point of this. And he was working for a knee cut to finish the choke, but instead he used the crease and the instep in his foot and just worked Doan's legs open a tad bit, drove his own knee down towards the mat, his body to the other side. It was really great. There was a nasty double crucifix in this fight. A double crucifix is when you have the underhooks and the head on the outside. And he just he just had he being Ronnie Yahya had Doan locked there forever, to the point to where you're like, man, is this going to finish a fight? One of my fight teammates was able to pull that off in an amateur fight a while back. Can't remember if he got the tap or not, but it's a sick submission to be in. And my God, had those been pride rules, fight would have been over. It would have been knees all day. Ronnie Yahya looked really, really good. He's somebody to watch out for in that division because he is overwhelming on the ground. Sam Alvey up to 205. He beat Pragno and joked that Cormier was ducking him and called out John Vellante after this win, which I thought was another good, realistic call out. And Sam Alvey wins, especially when he finishes a guy, he makes it very memorable. And he did that again tonight. He caught Pragno with a couple of insane rights moving backwards. Like the first time he had baited him, he had baited Pragno with a low kick that knocked him off balance, Alvey cracked him. And then as Pragno followed up and kept doing the same thing, Alvey was like, really? We're doing this again? We're going this route again? All right. Bam. Another counter right moving backwards. That was that was some hot stuff, in my opinion. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that Alvey was I think that Alvey was a little bit surprised by that too. Stone Osborne says having Cormier cage side as ace. Yeah, to get that reaction was pretty great. I will address the Colby Covington tweet too, by the way. That was something. That sure was something. Oh boy. Alan Jouban over Ben Saunders. This was a war. Saunders' chin was holding up really well earlier. Jouban is better when he moves forward because he drops his hands a lot when he's moving backwards. But Jouban was switching it up in the first round, was happy to trade with Saunders. And Jouban really went at the base and the balance of Saunders with leg kicks in that first round. I was surprised that he was so happy to take on a clinch battle with Saunders, but then he landed like a video game left-hand KO that just folded Saunders. And I'll tell you, the most surprising thing of this entire fight, I learned that Alan Jouban is like 36 years old. What? Thought the bro was like 30 or 31. Where have I been? Where have I been? That fight was badass. UFC's going to have some real decisions to make tonight between the Alvey KO, the finish between Stevens and Emmett. You had the submission with Latifi and OSP. The Reneau McMann finish was good, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And as was the Yahya and Bermudez finish. But I don't know if those were as highlight reel worthy as Latifi's, where he put a guy out. And then as far as fight of the night, you got Jouban and Saunders, and you've got Torres and Andrade. Man, there was just a lot of good fights tonight. There were no fights that I just didn't enjoy besides the next one we'll talk about, Angela Hill and Marina Moroz. Marina Moroz showed it was like she came to spar and Angela Hill came to fight. There was not a lot to this. There was much made on commentary of Moroz's volume, but what good is it when you're hitting air? Like, she was out here. Like, I'm in no danger of hitting my camera right now. Like, a good 6 to 7 inches out. Virtually all of her strike attempts were feints. So, yeah, there's a lot of volume there, but nothing with intent. No real volume. Nothing. No real. There was no danger for Angela Hill. So Angela Hill got this win in very easy fashion, and now she's won 2 of her last 3, which is good because she drew Jessica Andrade on her return to the UFC and maybe ease her in a little bit. But Angela Hill looking good of late. Marina Moroz, not so much. She lost to Carla Esparza in her last fight, and I saw David Bixenspan say that she looks worse with each camp change, and I kind of agree with that. Marion Reneau, Sarah McMann. Sarah McMann, 37 years old. Marion Reneau, 40. Marion Reneau is in the conversation of a title fight at 2 different weight divisions right now, because if you're in the discussion for a title fight at 135, you are also in the conversation for a title fight at 145 because it's a celebrity division. Based on that first round, Sarah McMann taking down Marion Reneau and crucifixing her and wailing away, I thought, you know what? If she was a celebrity option at 145 pounds of Fight Cyborg, I'd be all about it. And then Marion Reneau went to work. in that second round, McMann, as good as her jab can be at times, she was like throwing both arms out there. It was really, really awkward, really weird. And man, like I remember Sarah McMann's boyfriend being in a lot of Facebook groups I was in, and he would like trash catch wrestling and stuff like that. And Sarah McMann isn't like a big submission artist or anything. And since about that time, she's been submitted 3 times. All of her losses are submissions. So maybe ease up on that, because that's been a glaring weakness in the Sarah McMann game for quite a while. And based on what you see in the first round, if she gets stronger in that area, she's going to be tough to deal with. And maybe she could be a celebrity opponent at 145. And right now, I mean, Cyborg's probably going to kill Yahya. And if Amanda Nunes and her don't fight, then you've got Caitlin Vieira, you've got Marion Reneau now, and maybe Megan Anderson, depending on her situation. But yuck, man. Yuck, man. McMann just was so close there. And this fight really summed up her career, I thought. Reneau wants to be in the title talk, and she should be. She is unbeaten in her last 4 fights. She had that majority draw with Betch Kelleher that she won. But Brazil, she should have beaten Ashley Evans Smith. So Marion Reneau should be right now like 6-1 in the UFC with her, or 7-1 in the UFC with her only loss being to Holly Holm, when Holly Holm was never hotter in her life. I say give it to her if you don't make the Cyborg Nunes matchup later this year, and they very well could. You never know what they can do. Even on short notice, they can put some fun stuff together. But Marion Reneau looked very good. Brian Kelleher over Barao. Elias Theodoru mentioned Nova Uniao guys always have great takedown defense, especially if you only shoot a single or double and don't chain techniques together. Ain't that the truth? But Brian Kelleher was able to make it work to a point to where Barao was worried about it. Barao found a lot of early success early with a leg kick, but would circle into the power of Kelleher a lot. Like Barao was really good at getting his underhooks in against the cage and turning the tides when Kelleher would put him up there. But the ultimate came when Barao just didn't react to shots the way that he used to. In the 3rd round, after Kelleher I had already thought had won the first 2 rounds, Kelleher went ham sandwiches on Barao and would measure and set up all these strikes, all these huge uppercuts. I had it at 30-26. But Kelleher has found a real sweet spot. Even a rundown Barao is still a pretty damn good test in that division. And Kelleher passed that test with flying colors, and I think you give him a top 15 opponent after that. But now you get the story of Renan Barao, who is 1-5 during the USADA era, and that one win is over Felipe Nova, who, all respect to him, that ain't getting it done, my man. That ain't getting it done. Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't know. Man went 33-2 before USADA. 1-4 after. Sorry, 1-4. It's curious. I'm not going to accuse him of anything because he's never failed a test, anything like that. But, amen. Amen. But kudos to Brian Kelleher. What a fight. Max Griffin over Mike Perry. Darren Till came out of his cave and was at Cage Warriors this week and said that, or this weekend, and said that if Perry won, he would take that fight. Man, I didn't like that fight. I mean, it was an okay fight. It's a good fight to make. When Perry showed up cage side, I was like, hell yeah, man, that's cool. But then I look, and Teal's a number 7 ranked guy. He deserves somebody over Perry. And Griffin was the biggest underdog on the show. I don't know why, but he was in Perry's hometown and still won. He ran into trouble several times, including at the end of the 1st and the 3rd, but managed to elude Perry. Perry's game wasn't one-dimensional or anything, but was much slower than Griffin, and Perry would measure over and over and over again, but wouldn't follow up. So Perry would stalk Griffin across the cage, measure, and then Perry would circle out, or Griffin would circle out, and Perry wouldn't get to capitalize on that. It would go back, measure. Griffin circled out, couldn't capitalize. Okay. Perry had Griffin on his skates and then took him down with 30 seconds left in the round. What are you getting done there? Didn't get it. Perry and Till ain't getting that fight. It's for damn sure. UFC light heavyweight division. My God. We are in a real situation where Ilir Latifi is your best option as a title contender. Really, it's Shogun if you're talking about name value, but he's hurt. Gustafsson, he's hurt. Didn't draw on pay-per-view with Cormier the first time. Never fights either. UFC let Bader and Davis and Musashi go. Musashi's was a fine light heavyweight. Rumble Johnson hit the bricks. John Jones can't pass a drug test. Yikes. Latifi loves to dive into that overhand, like dip into it, but OSP fights on the outside, so I thought that he was going to have to switch it up, and he did so. He hit OSP with a left hand, and Latifi's left hand, once he makes contact with the jaw, you should go back and look at how quickly he's able to bring it back. Like when you throw a hook, it's like the way that my coach had taught me. It's like you're a witch and you're stirring like a big pot or something like that. You bring it right back. See how quick he's able to bring that back and just do more damage. And he did that. And he followed up by guillotining OSP and put him out. OSP tapped, but Alonzo, the ref, didn't see it. Bad refing. And Ilir Latifi has won 5 of 6. And OSP, he's on the carousel, my man. He'll keep beating those top 10 guys that he'll put in front of him here and there and keep himself in the division. And right now, the only people at light heavyweight that have fought twice in the past year, are on a winning streak in the top 10, and haven't been beat by DC, and man's Ilir Latifi. My God, it's where we are. Can you believe it? Good for Ilir Latifi. Hell of a win for him. A highlight reel win for him. And he just looks like a monster physically. He's like little Lars Sullivan. And I was ready to take bets. I was like, hey, guys, any bet you all want to make that OSP will not Von Flue choke Ilir Latifi. Ain't happening. Ain't happening. Jessica Andrade over Tisha Torres. This was a fun fight. Torres was really putting some work in on Andrade with that footwork, with the angles. And I thought that Andrade constantly circled towards the power, towards the speed, towards the angles of Torres. Andrade was still landing in round 1, but I had that for Torres. And in the second round, Andrade turned it around with some high velocity and high volume takedowns. And part through that round, I was wondering, like, do we score that takedown that Andrade didn't do anything with more than the up kick, more than the jabs, more than the offense from the bottom that Torres did? And I would say no, but the way that Andrade turned the tides and took her down with a couple more after that, took Torres down with a couple more after that, yeah, you do give her that round. There wasn't a lot of offense from Andrade in round 2 outside of those takedowns, but they were really good, effective, powerful takedowns that gave her top control and made it work. And after that up kick, like, she got muscled around a little bit. So she being Andrade. So I wondered if she had all of her faculties at that point. But round 3, that was a different story. Andrade put the pain on Torres from the top, really pressured Torres for all 15 minutes. And Torres, who's one of the best conditioned athletes in the UFC, in my estimation, just couldn't hold up. And I thought that if they gave Torres the title fight instead of Joanna, which, I mean, Joanna deserves a rematch, Torres would have deserved that fight. And I was surprised that Joanna maybe didn't give 125 a go just to do it. And I'm surprised that Andrade didn't give 125 a go, considering that she fought at 135. And I'm sure that'll be an option down the line, but kudos to her for sticking it out. Now, this was a particularly awkward situation because you got Andrade, you've got Torres, you've got their girlfriends, fiancés, wives, and then a bunch of their teammates accordingly, and former teammates at cage side. Oh, boy. I'm going to have to get some insight from Showdown Joe, because I know he spends a lot of time in Florida covering the Titan FC stuff, about like maybe the relationships between these people, maybe some of the awkwardness that went down there. Kamaru Usman, you saw in the crowd, Showdown Joe's broadcast partner. I think Titan really dropped the ball by not running a show in Orlando last night. That would have been big time. We could have had Showdown Joe just stick around for the event, a lot of things like that. A little odd. For those asking, I will briefly talk about some of the fights that were booked. Jeremy Stevens over Josh Emmett. Lots of controversy to this one now, too. Well, first off, I don't understand Emmett or John Anik saying that Emmett would expect a title shot, or it'd be tough to deny him a title shot after a win over Stevens. Brian Ortega and Frankie Edgar are fighting on pay-per-view next weekend. Dupois? I don't get that. That's the number one contender fight. Edgar was supposed to get a title fight. You're not going to just take it away from him if he beats Ortega. You're not just going to not give it to Ortega if he beats a guy like Frankie Edgar. Whatever. Everything Stevens throws is intended to knock out somebody, and that's how this fight played out. The respect that these two men had for each other's power was, you could see it. and understandably so if you watch the fight and how it played out. This is very much a fight where both men knew that the big punch was coming. They just didn't know when it was coming, what angle it was coming from, which hand it was coming from. And for Emmett, that punch came in the first round when he dropped Stevens. In the second round, that came from Stevens as he dropped and finished Emmett. However, there is some controversy here. And Daniel Cormier brought this up after the fight, and I didn't even notice it all happened so quick. A couple of the elbows that Stevens landed were to the back of the head. Now, one could argue that maybe Emmett kind of turned into them, and every fighters meeting I've been into is like, you turn into it, tough shit. That's the way it goes. However, Jeremy Stevens threw, whether it connected hard or not, a very illegal knee. Extremely illegal knee before the stoppage. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. That knee was illegal. The elbows were illegal too by the definition of such, but based on the context of a rules meeting that I was not at, I can't really make a call on that. By the book, yeah, they're illegal. And we'll talk more about Showdown Joe, talk more with him about it on Tuesday on the Holy Smokes MMA podcast, 3 p.m. Eastern. But based on what the officials said backstage before the fight, maybe it's like, for example, the Ronnie Yahya and Russell Doan fight. Yahya was backpacked. You'll have some most refs will say, like, listen, spiking somebody is illegal. But if you hold on and you know it's coming, sorry, if they pick you up in the air, you hold on to an arm bar or you stick onto that backpack knowing that could happen. Sorry, that's at your own risk. However, if somebody like picks you up by the waist and intentionally spikes you, that's a foul. Now, I could see that if Emmett turned into those and trying to defend himself, turned into them, trying to game the system, yeah. But there was nothing gaming the system about that knee. He was a downed opponent. Stevens clipped him. You never know. It could get overturned. The thing is, you have to wonder, would Emmett have ever recovered? I don't think so. And that's the sad part about this, is none of those illegal strikes were necessary. Jeremy Stevens is on the hottest streak of his career. I loved what he did after the fight. Because up to the point of the Conor McGregor situation, by the way, head over to FightfulMMA.com. James Lynch interviewed both Emmett and Stevens leading into this fight and asked Stevens what he thought about those comments. Head over to FightfulMMA.com. It's under our exclusive section. About the Conor McGregor comments about who the fuck is that guy after he said he was the hardest hitting 145-pounder. And he really wasn't at that point. He's become such since. He has got a couple of highlight reel knockouts and a fight of the night, 2 fight of the nights, and probably getting another bonus tonight on top of that. He has beaten Gilbert Melendez, Doo-Ho Choi, and Josh Emmett back to back to back. In 2016, he beat Renan Barao. 2015, he beat Dennis Bermudez. And in between there, he lost to Moicano. He lost to Edgar. He lost to Holloway. It's going to happen, man. But he is on a hot streak right now. Good for him. Very smart of him to kind of circle back to that. He's not running away from it. And I can respect that a lot because a lot of guys would try to run away from it. And for a while, maybe it seemed like he had a chip on his shoulder about it. And why wouldn't you? You got clowned by the biggest name in combat sports these days. That's got to affect you. As much as people say, oh, no, it doesn't. He shook it off. No, man. He was a laughingstock for a little while. And I'm not saying that he wasn't a serious fighter because he is and he always has been. Did I think that he belonged in that UFC top 10? Hell no. Not before September this year. I didn't think that he belonged in that top 10 for a long time. But since then, he's earned it. He has made a career turnaround, and he put on an awesome show tonight. Kudos to him. Like, what? Just the past 6-7 months, he has just become that guy. Tyron Woodley called Colby Covington a queef this week. You all can go read the story on that over at Fightful.com. But Colby Covington tweeted out, oh, God. Tonight, I thought that me saying that Pearl Gonzalez's wrestling gimmick, that she said it would be called the Clam, I thought that was going to be the weirdest thing that I would talk about this week. But Colby Covington this week said, hey, Platinum Perry, maybe having your ratchet horse-faced girlfriend as your head trainer isn't the smartest idea on planet Earth. But hey, when you're the product of cousins fucking in Ocala, Florida, how strong can your decision-making skills be? Yeah, that's what Covington said. Colby Covington and James Vick were just made for each other. And if that 165-pound division happened, I would just love to see those two go at it verbally, physically. Any way you could dice that one up, I'd be interested in. Jimmy Rivera is going to fight Marlon Moraes at the main event of UFC Fight Night Utica. Edson Barboza, Kevin Lee headlining Fight Night Atlantic City. Those are a couple of fights, guys. Those are a couple of fights. Kevin Lee, I wonder if he would be UFC champion right now if not for that staph infection. Because a staph infection takes a whole lot out of you, man. That is a fight. Edson Barboza to me is the test. If you want to see if somebody is truly elite or still elite, throw him in there with Edson Barboza. The most OP fighter in UFC video game history, by the way. Jimmy Rivera, Marlon Moraes. Winner gets a title shot right there. What that tells me, Jimmy Rivera and Marlon Moraes, is that UFC's booking TJ Dillashaw and Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Otherwise, one of these two men would be getting a title shot against TJ Dillashaw. That's an estimation. It's a guess. It's a prediction on my part. But these were the two contenders. That's it. But those are a couple of good main events. Assuming that they hold together. The Utica show is in June 1st, I believe. The Atlantic City show, April 21st. Man, just a couple of months away. I get to watch Kevin Lee and Edson Barboza fight. All for that. All for that. Cyborg still wants Amanda Nunes at UFC 226. Yeah, I would too if I were her. And if Amanda Nunes can do it and they can shove that one on there, sure. Jacare Souza, Kelvin Gastelum, UFC 222 or 224. I like that fight. I like it a lot more than given. I really thought that they should have switched it up. It should have been Jacare and Romero, and it should have been Gastelum and Weidman. And then whoever looked the most impressive out of them got the title shot. But I'm not going to cry about this. I'm not going to cry about UFC 224 getting Jacare Souza and Kelvin Gastelum. Cool. Derek Lewis suffered a fractured hand at UFC Fight Night Austin. That's a real bummer. I have an article coming out that I shelved in June of last year about some of the UFC heavyweights' new blood. And it's something that I've talked about. My dude Jeremy Lampert at Fightful.com has talked about. But I shelved it because I saw like the Tai Tuivasas and the Curtis Blades coming up. And there's some interesting names. And here's the funny thing. Even though Tai Tuivasa and Curtis Blades and Volkov and Struve are now in this UFC heavyweight division. And I mean, Struve has been there for a while, and so has Volkov. But these younger people, and Ngannou has stepped up, and he's 31. The average age of a top 15 ranked UFC heavyweight has actually marginally went up in the last 3 months because of natural aging. Like, they have each naturally gotten a few months older, and that has offset the youth movement in that division, which I thought was kind of funny. Santiago Ponzinibbio calls out Donald Cerrone for Fight Night Chili. If I'm Ponzinibbio, I'm wanting Darren Till. I understand Donald Cerrone, because he's a bigger name than Teal, even though that Teal beat him. But yeah. Matt Mitrione says that Roy Nelson cheated at Bellator 194. Wouldn't shock me. That would fit Roy Nelson's character historically, because, I mean, this is the same guy who hoarded Facebook likes till he got to 100,000, promising his fans that, supported him and maybe cared about his health, that he would drop to 205, and he didn't do it, and he admitted. He didn't expect to get it, and then he worked himself into a shoot. Elias Theodore becoming a ring card boy. We talked about that on the Holy Smokes podcast. That's good stuff. Good stuff. We do have UFC pay-per-view coverage next Saturday. I believe James Lynch is joining me on the post-show podcast. If not, I'll fly solo again. I'll answer your all's questions. I'll do all that good stuff. So I'm really enjoying that. That WrestleMania weekend, I'll be here for NXT TakeOver Saturday night. I'll be here for UFC Saturday night. I'll be here for Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor Saturday night. I will pull an all-nighter to get you all the coverage that you need. We've got all hands on deck. We have John Morehouse covering Ring of Honor, Ryan Cook covering NXT, David Tease covering UFC. We're getting it all in for you. You're not going to go without at Fightful.com. When we say we cover MMA, pro wrestling, and boxing, that's what we do. We have exclusives across all three. You will not see another website on the internet that has that. I guarantee you, my friends. Let people know about us if you don't mind. We have forums, photos, videos, podcasts, all kinds of good stuff. Subscribe, like, thumbs up. Visit our friends over at Pro Wrestling Unlimited. They've been doing a lot of cool work for us. Guys, till next time, I want to thank you all so much for joining me here at UFC Orlando. Till next time, guys, visit us, support us, like us, share our stuff on Twitter. That stuff really helps. We're out.